Shut up and sit down.
Welcome to round 2 of the ChampCar iRacing series in 2023. My oh my, round 1 was interesting. The debut of the Toyota GR86 Cup car in our championship at Road Atlanta. And round 2 brings us the older specification NC Miata at Barber Motorsports Park. Another great American road racing venue. Really challenging, and we have another big grid for it. Thanks for joining us for our live coverage here. David Haynes with Devin Peters. Devin, great to be right back into the swing of another season of the ChampCar iRacing series.
Absolutely, and another season and a bigger field, more competition than ever out there on the track today. We are seeing a real evolution in the field's competitiveness, and I got to say, I think anyone in the top 20 could win the race today.
Yeah, absolutely. Lots of participants here. It's a free car for anyone on the iRacing service. Barber is a paid track, but that has not dented our numbers whatsoever. The drivers are in qualifying right now before the 1 hour race comes up. It's identical cars, identical setup, and identical fuel load for everyone, which means they're going to need to make one pit stop in the upcoming 1 hour race. So great to see so many drivers on the grid as well, because there's plenty of carryover from round 1, and every driver who completes all 4 of the first rounds goes into a draw to win a prize, and that's not the only prize and the only way to win a prize this year.
Yeah, there's tons of prizes on offer this season. We've got not only prizes for showing up, we've got prizes for first place, $1,500 going to the season-long winner. And then we're also going to see prizes on the season for our Endurance Championship. More details about that shortly in the forums. But lots and lots of ways to win, lots and lots of ways to get on track a little bit cheaper this season.
So what are we seeing from this car and this track at the moment, Devin? It's a beautiful sunny day in the south, and track temperature is relatively hot even for this time of year.
Yeah, it's been a sort of an interesting qualifying session. The guys that went out early put in some really quick times, and it seemed like the track got a little bit hot and things started to drop off. But now towards the end of the session, we've seen a couple people find a little bit extra in the draft and push it a little bit further. And we're seeing some kind of interesting names showing up. I mean, Owen Watts in second place, that's a new name, and a team out of Florida there, Watts Racing. And a personal favorite of mine, he says his spirit animal is Cletus McFarland, so I can get behind that. We got new names all over the place. I mean, Skip Brock Jr., that's a racer that I don't think we've seen in the top 5 before, but he's a long-time Spec Miata racer. He's got decade plus of experience doing that. And then all of our regulars are out too, like Love Racing, strong display in the top 10. Alex Albert, 3-time champion, 13th place.
Yeah, and he's leading the overall championship at the moment after that win at round 1. It was so closely fought and contested at round 1, and we are so hoping to see the same again. Once again, in these style of cars that we love for the ChampCar iRacing series, they race so closely. If you're within half a second a lap of someone, your lap times are identical because the slipstream will keep you together. It will stop the faster driver from getting away. It will keep the other drivers just in touch, hopefully. Even here around Barber, not a massively high-speed circuit compared to Road Atlanta, compared to Road America, compared to Daytona, where we're going later in this season, but certainly enough time at throttle on that pit straight. And that back straight chicane isn't really a chicane for these cars at the speed that they go. Pretty well flat out through there. Makes it one long but single file back straight.
Yeah, well, and you're really talking about the beauty of Barber Motorsports Park here. I mean, all the corners around here, turn 1 to turn 15, they're all different. They all have so much character, so much variety that a driver can't really, shut their brain off and just kind of like ride their way around here. You have to be so focused and so dialed in. And there are so many places to attack because the track's so wide all over the place that in these cars with this draft, it's going to be action packed up and down the grid.
Checkered flag is out on qualifying. These drivers making their last attempt at improving their grid position. We always say in an endurance race, does your grid position matter all that much? And if there was 20 cars, I would agree with that statement for a 1 hour race. But with 47, I really don't fancy anyone's chances of winning starting in that back half of the field. It will be tough to make too much forward progress too quickly on a circuit like Barber. You can see that there's only a couple real overtaking opportunities per lap around here, and there's plenty of places you get tempted to try to make a pass, and you can't with the back straight chicane, with that museum complex there where you don't really start braking until you're already into the complex of corners and bouncing over those curves. Pretty single file through those parts that would make it tough to get alongside and affect an overtake.
Yeah, it's going to be such a show out here. And you know what? I love the NC Miata. I know that it got some flack on the forums for its inclusion, but the boat has a place in my heart. One of those classic iRacing rookie cars. Spent a lot of time doing a lot of races in it, and I still think it's one of the most fun cars to drive on the service. It really, you can throw it around. It rewards close racing and precise driving, and really kind of, I think, has done well with the tire model updates. Feels really good even today.
Qualifying almost drawing to a close at this point, and your top four are so close. Just 2/10 for your first two rows of the grid. And then, of course, with a big field like this, there's a little bit of a gap back to fifth, but then they rattle off super quickly in this section around the 1 minute 40s, low 1 minute 40s. So many drivers around that pace from fifth place all the way through to sort of 13th, 15th, etc. We saw at Road Atlanta. If you're in that top 10 and you run in that top 10, you are a chance at the win right to the checkered flag. So that'll be key in the mind for a lot of the drivers.
Yeah, I heard a lot of drivers saying, honestly, that it was tough to get a clean lap in with the amount of traffic on track. So, I wouldn't be surprised to hear that, the top four managed to put in a clean lap, and the rest of the field, well, they didn't find a clean lap on their fast lap, So I would expect to see it run even closer than the qualifying results would seem to indicate.
Let's look at those qualifying results then. Joshua Soto has the pole position. He's been a real enjoyer of this car in past, and he shares that front row with Owen Watts. Row 2 is McCormick and Andrew Pilota for what will be a 2-wide rolling start.
McCormick, two-time champion. Put some respect on the name. He's got some pedigree.
Third row is Skip Brock Jr. and Max Lupfer. Sean Saputra and Justin Hall on row 4 there. Ian Giebler and Peter Lawson complete the top 10, and the field keeps going with Tim Wire and Nick Love on row 6. Got Albert and Alfano on the row behind. Ithrem and Lee Muleman in 15th and 16th. Davis Trask, Carlos Reyes in 17th and 18th, and Kyle Robertson and Austin Dodge to the 20th place there, Devon.
Yeah, carrying on the back half of the grid, we got Greg Vandevert and Randall Kinney, Todd Chapman and Darren McNeil in 23rd and 24th, Carlos Corredor and Ernesto Carrizosa in 26th, Scott Grinnell 27th, Thomas Reyes in 28th, Aaron Thorpe in 29th, Mark Kruger in 30th. A couple long timers there on that row. Alan Wells in 35th, and James Smith with 32nd there. James Smith has some history racing with Booksmart Motorsports. I think that's what the BM is for after the name. Ben Rose in 33rd and Charles Kowalczyk in 34th. David Palermo in 35th. Danny Robinson 35th. David Palermo 36th. Bill Salin in 37th. Jared Kubert in 38th. Sonny Bajaj in 39th. Michael Thorne in 40th. Jerry Babnick in 41st. Then we've got a few more folks tailing on the back of the grid with no qualifying time. We'll see if they take the start. Joshua Lucas, 44th. Steve Pender, 45th. Wade Chitta in 46th. John Hurley, 47th. Dustin Besh, 48th. And Thomas Love, 46th and 47th. Numbers are hard when they get that big, Haynes.
Yeah, you're well beyond how many fingers and toes you can count on. I'm seeing 43 cars on this formation lap behind the Ford Mustang pace car. We are going to have the Ford Mustang as one of the cars the drivers compete in later in the championship. So never too late to join us. Forum.champcar.org at the top in the iRacing section has all the information you need about the schedule, about the prizes, about how to come race with us. It's free to enter the ChampCar iRacing League if you're on iRacing, if you're an iRacing member. So free to enter, lots of great prizes with lots of great ways to win. I don't know why you would be anywhere else on your Wednesday night unless there was a very good happy hour.
Come after. Well, we got room for you on the back of the grid still. There's still a few more spots back there.
Now, always interesting, the race starts here at Barber Motorsports Park because the pace car pulls in and then there's still two corners where your leader, Joshua Soto, controls the field. When, where, how does he decide to jump? Some drivers do it before the final corner. Soto keeps them waiting towards the start-finish line, towards the green flag, and he still keeps them waiting right to that green flag, the front of the field, so packed up as they head down towards turn one on these cold tires on a hot and slippery track, and it hasn't paid off for the pole sitter as Owen Watts goes around the outside of him into the lead of the race. Andrew Pallotta looks to go through as well as they enter the long right-handers of 2 and 3. Not a great start from your pole sitter, and the whole field so packed up.
Yeah, it looked like a classic Spec Miata race there, 3, 4, 5 wide going into turn number 1, but they've kept it clean so far. We'll see if they can keep that going into turn 5.
Best overtaking opportunity of the lap is into that hairpin, but Watts holds on to the lead, looks relatively tidy towards the rear of the field. And Andrew Pallotta, what a jump he's had on that race start from 4th place on the grid into 2nd. Just a little tentative into turn 1 from the pole sitter, and it's a short little left-hander at turn 1 and then a big long right-hander. The drivers on the inside of that made a lot of ground.
A little bit of action back in the pack. It looked like Sean Saputra might have gotten together with, that is, there's so many cars back here. It's hard to tell. The Hot Wheels car on the inside, now the outside. Anyways, they've cleared it back up, but it's still too wide back there deep in the field.
Super dramatic on that opening lap, and a small mistake will cost you a lot.
Yeah, I'm seeing a few cars getting towed back to the pits already. It looks like James Smith has been lost. Alan Wells is in the pits as well in a Salem-themed car. And Owen Watts comes around and holding the lead on Andrew Pallotta, with Josh Soto back in 3rd place after that action-packed first lap. And the Whammo car, Mark McCormick, in 4th place, has a little bit of a bump on that rear bumper. A little bit of a bend, you could say.
There was definitely a check-up amongst this leading group into turn 1 on that opening lap. They're a little more strung out now on lap 2, but there was definitely some Miata nose-to-tail action happening in that part.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Miata's no stranger to bump drafting, but the iRacing damage model will give you that little crinkled bumper if you get it in there a little hard. Looks like we got a little bit of a breakaway going on here. I'm seeing the top 6 cars sticking together, a little gap between the first 3 and the second 3, and then another group of 3 running behind them.
And then there's plenty of action from 10th place, Carlos Reyes. Austin Dodge is there as well, and a big group of cars heading into the museum turn. And maybe a little bit of door-to-door contact as well. Some drivers in this pack who've made a lot of ground, like Todd Chapman, who's in the middle of it, who's come up 8 spots on this start. Sean Saputra and Peter Lawson, drivers who qualified quite well, also have dropped back into this section of the circuit. And I'm seeing Tim Wire have a cheeky look in one of the places we don't normally see overtaking, and he gets past Austin Dodge, maybe with the element of surprise.
Yeah, that was a really nice move. I think Tim Wire was a little unhappy about losing a spot on the opening lap to Dodge, and manages to take it back there with a nice little run there coming off at turn 7.
One of the action zones is that final complex of corners here, and you see the drivers sometimes get a little wide coming over one of those crests, track it across the grass. Seems to happen consistently without fail here, that it's one of those corners drivers try to push the limits and occasionally come unstuck, sometimes with a little consequence, sometimes with a lot.
A little bit of action up at the front. I'm seeing Pilata making a move up the inside of Watts as they go down into 5. Clean move, well executed, gets away with it. Also seeing a little bit of action on the main camera. That's the Cheetos car all over the place. That's Heath Threm struggling on the exit of turn number 1. Has a background in dirt racing, but I don't think that covers the sand traps on the road course.
No, that suspension was well and truly cooked in that contact. So yeah, check the replay of it, but yeah, change for the lead, as you say. That turn 5 key overtaking opportunity. It's a big, straight, long braking zone, of which there are very few elsewhere on this circuit. So if you get a good run towards that corner, very tempting to send the dive down the inside, and you can sometimes make it work. And Andrew Pilota has now leading Owen Watts. He's still got those big names, those winning chances behind them. Joshua Soto, Mark McCormick, Max Luke, for all of them race winners in previous seasons of the ChampCar iRacing series. So they know how to work these 1-hour races and maybe start thinking about that pit stop already. Make sure you've got the number correct for your fuel. Make sure there's enough but not too much in the jug.
Yeah, and I think the fuel saving, the moderately conservative driving up front is allowing these guys behind to kind of stay in within vision range, at least. Tony Alfano, Alex Albert, Ian Giebler, and that second pack or third pack of 3 are kind of fighting tooth and nail to get back onto the lead pack. Alfano, not a name we've seen in the past few years in that bright yellow and purple car, but actually qualified second place at Road America before missing the start due to some technical difficulties. So he'll be looking to make up some ground in this his first full race in the series.
Already some traffic for our leaders, which will be putting a little sweat on the brow of Andrew Pilota.
That's
doing the best they can, but there's only so much you can do around Barber. We've got over 40 cars in under 2.5 miles.
Yeah, Sonny's doing his best to stay out of the way, but it's he can lift and lift and lift. He found himself on the apex there, though. That's a tough spot to be.
Yeah. Knew they were coming, did his best. It's not always easy, though. And it has closed things up in the top 3, but given them a little bit of a break to the rest who got more compromised through the final sector. Little bump drafting between first and second. Owen Watts just helping Andrew Pilota along, maybe thinking this is our chance for a top 3 breakaway, driving it real MX5 Cup style.
Yeah, that's. I was going to say that's.
For everyone who watched that great racing from Daytona a couple of weeks ago.
hmm I was going to say that's going to be familiar ground for him. Just sticking the bumper right into the back of the guy in front. I wouldn't be surprised if
Now he
he's done
looks
it
for
in
the
real
lead.
NC.
Puts the nose down the inside in towards turn 5, wants to outbrake, have the short line through the corner, but you've got to get clear on the exit because the next corner into the museum complex, the right-hander, you've either got to get all the way clear and slam the door or trust that the guy on the inside is going to yield before you do. And that is what happens this time. They know there's still 52 minutes of racing, a compulsory pit stop, all of that still to happen in this race. Don't throw it away just yet. So Pilotta and Watts just trading this lead, relatively gentlemanly at the moment. But the pace from McCormick in 4th, he's bringing the rest of them back into this, back into a 6-way fight. And the lap times from Giebler and Albert only just chipping away at it as well. So I think still 8 cars compressing on this lead still as we settle into a rhythm in this race.
Yeah, it looks like there's a few guys up at the front there with some real pace. I did notice Soto getting a little lost through the middle of 7 there as he jumped the second curb on the left 7B and had a really exciting ride down onto the back stretch there. Action's busy out there, though. All the way up and down the field, we're seeing battles. That battle for 14th is still pretty hot between Dodge and Randall Kinney. They've been back and forth a few times, though it looks like commentators curse have just separated them as I call out their names.
Yeah, a couple of drivers here that qualified outside of that top 20 punching their way up the field, like Dodge plus 6 positions, Kinney plus 7, Scott Grinnell plus 11. There's a name that has been on our lips many a time in a past ChampCar iRacing series broadcast.
I was going to shout out Michael Thorne, who's our hard charger of the race so far, up 17 spots from his 40th place qualifying position, now running 23rd after taking one off of Alan Wells in that Salem-themed car.
Compressing again on the lead. The gap between 3rd and 4th has pretty well evaporated. Now you got your top 6 within 2 seconds, and there's 4 seconds back to Giebler and Albert, not able to make any progress on closing that gap last lap.
Yeah, some more lap traffic up the road though. Charles Kowalczyk running up ahead of them. He'll be in the path in a few corners here at the rate they're closing. Max Lupfa is getting a little bit racy there back in 6-2. He keeps peeking up the inside of Skip Brock, and I'm just waiting for that move to come into one of these turns here. Lupfa has always been a racy character out on track, not one to like to stay in the draft so much, prefers to lead. Oh, no, and Skip. Oh, that's going to hurt. Yikes, glad that's in the simulator. He put that one nose into the guardrail and whipped around and smoked it again the second time, and that's taken the motor right out of the thing. Luckily for him, we've got a faster pair in this series, but he's going to be paying the price for that one. That's going to take him right out of the top 5, probably right out of the top 20.
Looking at it again, he's just pushed a little too hard in towards turn number 1. Car's completely loaded, steering lock in. When he just clips the grass, you've either got to not be on the grass or have the steering wheel straight as you go across it. And the car at full load, full steering, clips it and goes from having a lot of grip to having very little. And that's the result. Himself and Lupfa had changed 5th and 6th position back and forth a couple times prior to that. The pressure was definitely on there, and no contact between the drivers, just a simple mistake that can find the guardrail around Barber.
Yeah, that's a little painful, but he's like I said, at least he knows that he doesn't have to go and turn a wrench for 5 hours as a result. One of the benefits of the simulator. But our top 6 is now top 5, and Charles Kowalczyk is making way, but that hasn't stopped him from slowing down Max Lupfa. It might even be a top 4 at this point.
It is the way they're going. Watts leading from Carlotta, Soto, and McCormick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as predicted, a lot of folks that have some pace, but it looks like those four do actually have a little bit more lap time available to them than the rest of the field so far.
Yeah, Giebler and Albert still making no progress on this group. So field continuing to stretch out just a little bit. In that way, your top four are the only cars still lapping 1 minute 40s.
Yeah, well, and that track temp just keeps rising, 90 degrees now as they lap around. A cloud goes overhead, of course, and knocks that back down. But definitely feeling it, I'd say, especially once they've got some heat in the tires. Davis Trask and Sean Sputcher are having a little bit of a race with each other. Sputcher just put the moves on him and took the spot for 10th place there. Another one of those love racing cars. And he'll be coming up on teammate in a little bit here. So he might benefit from some help getting by. Very different lines to those corners.
Plenty of good team efforts around and about, aren't there? We've seen a bunch of Salins cars. There's always plenty of drivers who love racing. There's always at least 3 of them. I think we might have 4, maybe even 5 this time around.
Mm-hmm.
The drivetrainer Motorsports guys out of Florida also seem to bring a couple anytime they rock up.
Mm-hmm.
That's Kyle Robertson and some others, and he's in a battle in 14th.
Well, and
as Wire pits early.
Yeah, actually, that is a really interesting early stop from him. And Wire, you know, that's the guy who knows his way around a pit strategy with his background. You know, doing some data acquisition for Daytona prototypes over the years. So I'm curious to see what's running through his head with that early stop. Maybe he had qualifying fuel in it and forgot to put the full load in.
That would be a me problem if that was the case.
Yeah, but it is interesting. I mean, maybe he's seeing the spot back a little bit further, a little bit less traffic to race in. Who knows? Yeah. Expecting, of course, a one-stopper here today. Generally set up the races with that in mind. So there's always
Robertson with Grinnell and Kinney in tow. Running some slightly defensive lines there, I think, almost. But no one is gonna get through in that little chicane flat out in these cars, but you can't go flat out too wide.
Yeah, Kinney's got a little damage on the front bumper. He's been doing some pushing. Looks like all 3 of them have. Grinnell's got a little dent there on the left front as well.
What becomes challenging in these cars on the longer runs is the front left tire really takes a beating, whatever the track temperature is, because you've got such a long turn 2, turn 3, museum turn, and then also that final complex, just really long, medium speed, right-hand corners, and you can see it suffering a little bit for Robertson as he parks it in front of Scott Grinnell, who cannot get through, but looks to have a little more pace and a little more balance through those long corners as well.
I've just caught up at the front, Max Lufa had a moment coming out of 5. It looked like that was Jerry Bavinik getting on the throttle, gets on the grass, and they had to take some evasive maneuvers to avoid an accident there. But all's well, and the back half of the top 5 is still going strong.
So a couple of the drivers have made pit stops already. 26 seconds for Wire, 30 seconds for Justin Hall. We'll see how that compares to what others opt to do later on.
Yeah, that's pretty quick stop, but Justin Hall is pretty good at the fuel math, generally speaking, so I'd expect him to get it right.
Bit of change up front as well. Joshua
Yeah.
Soto into second place, so he's just stuck a move on Andrew Pilotta. So
he got him into turn 5 last time by. Just nice, clean move up the inside.
Then I think they swapped back and have swapped again since. So definitely just had some overlap in towards turn 1 earlier on. Owen Watts still leading it, but clearly the drivers who were happy to just be in the pack earlier making a move or two more now. That curb gets such a beating on the way into the museum section here.
Yeah. Really flying over that thing.
Still no one else but this leading 4 able to make 1 minute 40s. So they're still putting a little bit of space between themselves and the rest of the field just on race pace.
Yeah,
Gonna jinx it. Traffic hasn't been too bad for them yet.
And I was going to say, as much as they do have a gap, it's only about 7 seconds back to 5th place. So, I mean, one wrong move or one long pit stop, and they'll be right back in the clutches. I'm actually enjoying in the middle of the pack right now. Ben Rose and Aaron Thorpe are having a little bit of a go at it, heading into the final sector. The two of them have been racing pretty closely with each other. Aaron Thorpe, of course, done lots of races with the ChampCar iRacing series, but Ben Rose, a new name to the series. I think this might be his first or second start. Just going through the files here.
Basically, Santa Claus, can you also tell me who's been naughty and who's been nice?
We'll see going into turn 1 here if Aaron decides to take this move around the outside. I know who we could call naughty.
Rose is driving it pretty defensively, pretty conservatively in a way. Not opening up the inside anywhere, but it's also not going to set the lap times alight like that. Got a bit of traffic for this pack.
Yeah, it's Bavinet coming out of the pits now. Stand well and clear. And Thorpe much deeper under the brakes going into that corner there. It looks like these two are going to calm things down though here and run nose to tail for a bit for us.
Not taking quite as much of the curb at the museum turn as we saw the leaders do. It's certainly a risk to take, to get a little airborne in the middle of the corner just to open up the next hairpin.
Yeah. Meanwhile, back at the front, Owen Watts is back to pushing down the front straightaway. Gave Joshua Soto a push pretty nearly all the way down the front straightaway that time by. We'll see if he puts on another show for us coming out of turn 3 here.
Yeah, so Soto leading now is obviously past Watts. Watts with a big lift and coast into 5 though. You can tell that from any angle.
You could see Soto used all the brakes going into the corner that time. Looked like he locked up the rears a little bit on the way and got a little sideways.
So what kind of pace is his lead pack going to do now that Soto is at the point? He looked like one of the quicker drivers in the group. I think he's currently got the fastest lap of the race, if only fractionally by hundredths of a second over Andrew Pilotta. Only 2 drivers to have scraped into the 1 minute 39s, which they did earlier in this race when the tyres were a little younger and maybe the track was a tiny bit cooler.
Tony Alfano and Shans Putra and now Davis Trask are having a bit of a battle. That looks like they're fighting over 8th place. 2 wide going into the second chicane on the back straight here. David Trask running on the outside becomes the inside, and Alfano loses the spot to Sean Saputra. Two of them had been nose to tail for a few corners leading up to that.
Yes, indeed, a tough spot to make a pass there. So much elevation change in that final sector as the track sort of lifts up, drops away, plateaus, and then drops away into the final corner again. And the elevation is used to great effect around Barber. It takes what would be a pretty simple turn 1 and makes a challenge out of it. It takes what would be a pretty simple braking zone into 5 and makes a challenge of it as the track drops away right at the final stage of the braking and turn in, and can loosen up the cars a little bit and make them more challenging.
Trask waving around a little bit, being threatening. Oh, and Alfano. That was a great dive into the corner. Had to scare Sean Saputra off the line to make that one work, but Saputra's got the run on the way back out, and it looks like there's a little bit of chatter going back and forth between the two of them. I think Alfano might be apologizing for that ambitious move.
Yeah, and Saputra gets it back into the museum turn, a little offline on the way in. It's pretty risky, but he gets it all gathered up and back together.
Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, up at the front, there's been a few moves. It looks like Mark McCormick's all the way through the front all of a sudden. I don't know how that's gonna happen. Oh, it looks like Josh Soto messed up the museum turn pretty badly, and lifts off and lets Owen Watts and Andrew Pilata come up on him, and then Mark McCormick sees the three of them trying to be in second place, and Mark McCormick just goes and takes the lead. He says, I don't care about fuel mileage. Yeah. I think Owen Watts didn't want the lead. I think no one wanted the lead, and so now Mark McCormick's gone and jumped out in the front after riding around in 4th place for the last 10 laps or so, and he's decided, well, I could probably try out the lead for a little bit. All these drivers, though, being pretty cagey on the fuel mileage strategy at this point.
It's not an easy pit lane or an easy decision here at Barber. You've got 2 corners, street circuit-esque, between the guardrails before you get to the cone that starts the pit lane speed limit. So everything before the pit lane speed limit, whether it's pit entry or not, is racetrack. You're racing on it quick as you can. And that can be challenging, seeing that catch a few drivers out, hitting the guardrail on the pit entry. Then these cars don't have a pit lane speed limiter, and your exit out of the pit lane pretty challenging, as well as it spits you straight into that long turn 2 and 3.
Yeah, and on the dirty side of the track too, with all the cars going around here, so it'll be noticeable on the way out. And I don't know, I'm curious to see what the tire strategy is going to be from the leaders up front. We've seen a few different things deeper in the field, but as we speak of it, Mark McCormick goes and dives. Yeah, dives.
No damage on that car. No reason other than strategy. Wanted to do something different, and he does get pretty close to the Armco, but he's just maximizing that racing line till he gets to the yellow cones that denote the start of the pit lane speed limit.
Another taker too, Alex Albert from 6th place goes and takes the pits that time. Giebler continues on.
Watching the Jacks, man.
Yeah. McCormick hits the lane.
Nothing, car stays flat and level, so it's just fuel going in. No, then the right-hand side goes up for McCormick.
Yeah, seeing the same thing over on Albert's car. It looks like 4 tires for both of those guys.
Well, I guess now's the time in the race to pit if you are going to take 4 tires to make the maximum of them. 27 seconds for McCormick. Albert about to leave his box, 29 seconds.
Okay, interesting stuff. So a little bit shorter even than some of our guys deeper in the field. Meanwhile, Pilata, Watts, and Soto are still going hard, coming down the back straight. They've got a little bit of traffic up ahead, but nothing too serious. And Watts has got his wish. He's riding along in 2nd place, saving fuel, I gotta imagine. Not a lot of fuel, though. He gets really close to the bumper on the way out of there.
I think they all got to get a bit racier here now that they know, previous twice a champion, reigning champion Mark McCormick is doing something. They're getting, well, he must be doing it for a reason. He's successful for a reason. So they know they can't hang around lest they be undercut by that earlier stop from McCormick. So really trying to race on. Your first two get cleanly past the traffic, and I think Soto does as well. He's a pretty switched on racer in this style of racing, because 1 hour with a compulsory pit stop is a different kettle of fish to a 20-minute sprint race in these cars.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just really enjoying Watts putting on a show. I mean, it's one thing to race these cars around. It's another to race them in as close a proximity as he seems to be comfortable relative to the other folks that we got out here. This is, really impressive stuff, how he's able to just stay right on the bumper and maintain just a little more momentum in a few spots to give that push. It's good stuff.
McCormick with his first traffic as he has to pass Scott Grinnell for position, who hasn't pitted yet, and comfortably gets down the inside of turn 1 on him. So no time lost there for McCormick. But if he came across some cars that said, oh, no, we're on the same lap, I'm not going to let you through with a hand wave, then that could have been costly. And that would be that's the downside to this strategy, isn't it? You're saying, okay, we'll get on these newer tires earlier. We'll try for an undercut. We'll try to get out of the tow and beat those guys elsewhere. But if you catch traffic that they don't, that's where you could lose time instead of gain it while you're on separate paths through the forest on this strategy before it converges later on.
Well, and unfortunately for Alex Albert, pitting just a little bit later, he's got 4 more cars ahead of him than McCormick does. So Albert's going to have to contend with a lot more than McCormick is here as he comes through the museum turn. He's getting his run on Aaron Thorpe. We'll see if Thorpe's aware of what's going on strategy-wise here, or if he's going to make it hard on Albert. And yeah, it looks like it's going to be the second option. Albert a lot more agile, though, through that section of the track. And really, if you were going to catch traffic, you'd have to think that this is where you'd want to do it, because the grip advantage, I think, is going to be very pronounced through this section of the track.
Part of it on these tires is just the temperatures as well. You run a lot of laps on them, the heat builds up. When you've got new ones, it takes a couple laps before that heat builds up, and so you can push on. But some drivers pitting from in front of him.
Yeah,
so Lutfer's reacted to McCormick, and Giebler and Grinnell and others following as well.
Yeah, and it looks like both of them took 4 tires. And who are we seeing? That's Love coming by, Lutfa coming by. Lutfa getting overtaken by Alex Albert. So Alex Albert's made the undercut work for at least one of the spots. Giebler behind as well. So yeah, that undercut has definitely paid off for Alex Albert. He's made up a few seconds.
And remembering that McCormick was right with that lead pack when he pitted, he came out of the lane 43 seconds behind them. He's now 41 and a half seconds behind them. So he's made up 2 seconds into that pit delta.
Plata and Soto onto the pit lane this time. And notably, Pilata just going straight to the slow lane. Of course, on the sim, once the cars are stopped, they don't have collision detection. Save us from some dramas on the pit lane. So he's really maximizing the shortest line possible into the pit box like that. Ooh, that's a deep stop there. Wow. Soto just nailed the stop there. I don't think he could have braked a foot later. Otherwise, he would have slid through the box.
Soto go left sides only. I think I only saw the left side of the car go up for him.
That's all I saw. Curious. I wonder if he'll be able to short fuel. There's been some pretty short stops from some of the other guys.
Yeah, Soto's still waiting on his fuel. He gets away 26.8 seconds, but he's only fractionally ahead of Pilota there and only has the left side tires. So see how that plays out for Soto. But McCormick's already gone through and handily on these guys. He's got 4 seconds on them. So they're going to need to work very, very hard to catch Mark McCormick. He is net race leader with that early stop onto those new tires and into some clean air, crucially, as well. It could have gone the other way if he came out amongst too much traffic.
Yeah, that's really paid off for him. So we're not seeing a huge delta on the pit lane. What is it like about a second? So most of that has to be explained by the outlap and by the traffic, but also by the entry into the pit lane. I think Mark McCormick really nailed it.
Soto did very, very well on his pit entry, his pit speed, getting into his pit box in and out aggressively. So he's got the shortest lane in to out time at 49.7 seconds. But it's not enough. Pitting 3 laps later than McCormick, and McCormick's pulled a second on them every single one of those laps. Now Soto and Pallotta fighting each other. Pallotta will have the better grip through left-hand corners, of which there's not too many around this circuit, particularly not too many long or loaded ones.
I wonder if this is like maybe a handling play. He wants to have the imbalance. I'm not sure. Maybe just a little inexperience with the format. Soto's done some races with us before, but not nearly as many as some of these other guys in the top 5. Owen Watts has taken his pit stop, and he's just exiting the pit lane this time, and he's going to watch Pallotta and Soto go by, but not by a whole lot. Maybe that 1 second you were talking about. We'll see if he's able to churn that back around with an extra lap of tires, maybe benefiting a little deeper into the run.
Yeah, the early stop looks good now, but then from here till the end, McCormick is going to be on tyres that are 3 laps older than his pursuers. So he might have pulled 3 seconds out of them in 3 laps, but maybe the other guys pull a tenth, 2 tenths back out of him all of the remaining laps, and we end up round about the same point. For me, it's going to depend on how Pallotta does this. If he tries to show the nose, tries to get ahead of Soto at every opportunity, and they trip each other up, McCormick walks away with this. But if Pallotta does what Watts was happy to do, is just bump the guy in front a little bit, ride behind for a couple of laps, see if you can chip away at the leader, then they've still got a chance. Because we know Soto, very good in this car, very good as the tires wear on this car, and a good race sense about what to do through the traffic as well. So they are 2 tenths out of the leader on this lap, but about to get some traffic, and Pallotta about to try and show the nose as well.
Man, but how many times have we seen Mark McCormick do this, get out in front, get a gap, and just never see the rest of the field again. 3 cars of traffic between them. Let's see if they can get through this next little bit cleanly. This is going to be critical for the race. They're too wide ahead.
So much traffic for Soto and Pallotta. They've got Kinney, they've got Cubitt, and Danny Robertson the next as well. But I think they're going to get past Robertson pretty tidy. It's actually not cost them that much. Only 1 or 2 tenths. Easily could have lost 5 seconds through all of that schmozzle.
Yeah, I think Pallotta had to lift a little bit, but luckily managed to get through pretty cleanly. And just down the road, 3.5 seconds up the road, that's Mark McCormick. It's not easy being the first guy through the lap traffic either. I mean, even if the other guys have their relative boxes up, they're not maybe expecting you, and there's no flashing lights on these cars to help you out and make sure the guy ahead knows that you're coming through at full speed.
Let's get iRacing to scan a Flagtronics box. that'd be fun.
Blue flag. Yeah, Owen Watts too. He's just coming onto the back of this little group here. He's going to be coming by Danny Robinson in just a few corners, so we can't count him out either. And Alex Albert and Max Lupfa last time by were hundredths of a second apart at the line. A few more seconds than that, or a few more tenths than that anyway, at this point in the lap. But Albert's 2 laps older on the tires.
Last lap for Josh Soto. He's just about to complete one now, but the one before that, absolutely insane. Back into the 139s. And that was... if he's got clear track and he keeps doing that, he can chip away at McCormick. He lost a little more through the traffic on the previous lap, but it looks relatively clean in front of him for the moment. Great
that
back.
Was a flying lap. Yeah, like he only lost 3 tenths on Mark McCormick, and And he had to navigate 3 cars. That's impressive stuff.
Just got to be on traffic watch from now on out. Get the helicopter in the sky, give us an hourly update, because there's just a couple cars ahead of McCormick, but there's nothing between McCormick and Soto at the moment.
Looking at some of the other pit strategies, I note, did Justin Hall have a lap 1 stop? What's going on with him? Or did he, lap 1 stop? Okay, so I'm just trying to figure out how he's got 20 laps on those tires. But okay, that pans out. Either way, Justin Hall just ahead of Tim Wire on the back half of the top 10. He's had a quiet race, but he's made up, held on to his position in 8th place. We'll see if he can make it all the way to the end on that stop.
Those tyres are going to be a world of hurt for Justin Hall, though, because we saw what an advantage getting new tyres on at the halfway point was for Mark McCormick. Reyes finds the wall in front of the leaders and doesn't cost any time to Soto and Pilota, but might have cost McCormick a little bit before he then found that wall.
He definitely cost McCormick a new race suit. That was exciting. He got 2 tires on the outside over the curb, and yikes, that's hurting. That's hurting if you do that in the real world.
Blue flag became a brown flag very quickly.
All right, you always know it's a good one when you get the producer shaking his head.
Really has shrunk a little bit of that lead gap down about 3 seconds now, as Soto continues to try and get it underneath the gap. But Pilota, what does he bring to this? Help or hindrance?
He wants to be second place when they get to Mark McCormick. That's the sense I'm getting, because he is not leaving Josh Soto alone. There is no collaboration happening. So Soto's really having to work hard for it. But as we know, Soto does have the pace. I mean, he showed some real impressive times in practice and in qualifying. So if there's anyone that can just drive away from Andrew Pilota, Soto might be your guy.
There was traffic involved, but Soto pulled more than half a second last lap. That gap for the lead, it was 4.5 seconds. We called it out. It was 3.5. It's 2.5 now. And from Soto's position, his perspective, you can see the lead just up the road from you. All the motivation you need when you pull half a second out of the guy, you can tell, you're like, oh, this time around when I'm at the apex of turn 1, I can still see him going into 2. You know you're getting closer. You can smell it, and you'll know if he can get to that 1 second, the rest of the gap takes care of itself. So in reality, Soto's got to work to close about 1.5 seconds, and he's there. And we'll have a 3-way fight for the lead once again. Great initial strategy from McCormick, but you've got to have the pace to back it up as well. And Soto, at this point in the race, looks to be that guy.
I'm just loving this. I mean, we've seen Mark McCormick run away with a lot of races, and we have not seen Mark McCormick get chased down in the way that we're seeing him get chased down right now. I was loving that camera angle off the back of his car, because you know that he's got to be seeing that little dot get a little bigger. Oh, that's pressure.
2.5 seconds as they leave the museum turn. I want to look at some mini sectors, see if there's anywhere in particular that Soto is finding time that Mark McCormick hasn't. Good sort of clean run these last couple of laps as well. Oh, McCormick's well wide of the apex on the way into the left-hander there.
He's feeling it. He's feeling the pressure.
Not too much traffic. We can really compare first against second in this.
Yeah, he just turned in, and the fronts just weren't there for him. Like, going back and looking at it, it just understeers right past the apex, and that's pretty much the same line he's been running the whole time. I'm not sure what's going on there. And the other thing is, Soto only took 2 tires, right? So when does that become a factor? Or does it? Because it's surely working for him right now.
Compare the lap times. No traffic for either. McCormick 141.0, Joshua Soto 140.6. So 4 tenths on that lap. He's just got to do that another 3 laps. and he brings himself into contention for a race win. The way that the championship format works, 16 races, take your best 12. You want to make sure you're bagging wins, because sure, mathematically, I guess third every single race throughout the year could do it, but the reality is, to have any security, you need a couple of wins next to your name.
Yeah, and in previous years, winning has been the formula for the championship. We've seen guys with 5, 6, 7 wins taking home the points trophy. But with how competitive things are at the front this season, I wouldn't be surprised if 2 or 3 wins is the difference between first and third.
2.1 seconds. Mark McCormick leading to Joshua Soto in second. It's that segment there, turning left into the downhill, change of direction right, and then over the crest. Soto always pulls a little bit of time out of the lead right there.
I did note, though, slightly different line from Mark McCormick. I think he's figuring that out. I think he's seeing where he's losing that time and adjusting. Real pro moves up at the front. Oh, things are tight. I'm loving this battle.
It equalizes a little more on this lap, where Soto only takes 1/10 out of Mark McCormick, and all of it was in that corner I mentioned. I'm pretty sure. The tires leveling off a little bit. That those first 5 laps on the new tires bring a little bit of speed. McCormick had those 5 laps to affect his undercut. Then Soto had those 5 to try to trim it back down a little bit, but then they both trend towards the same plateau of performance, and it's 7 laps into the run for Soto. He doesn't have the same advantage that I think he might have had a couple laps ago. Still relatively clean running, but there's suddenly a little bit of traffic for McCormick as the 43 of Jerry Barberneck appears.
I just got to share with you. There's a couple guys crashed out of the race. It's always a bummer to hear that. But what I do really enjoy is getting Facebook messages from them, showing them working on the car with the stream on in the background, welding, whatever they're doing, banging on things with hammers. That's funny stuff.
Now it's a bit of traffic for Soto, and he touches Jerry Barberneck in the final sector here. Throws it down the inside of the next corner, and Pilotta goes to follow, but it's been very costly for Soto and Pilotta. That's lost them a little over half a second.
Yeah, I'd say that Barberneck didn't quite see him coming, because he went straight onto the racing line, closed that door about as hard as a guy could close it.
Checking
back in with the back half of the top 5, Max Lupfa has managed to overtake Alex Albert completely. He's got a solid grip on 5th place. Alex Albert 2 seconds back of him, and then another 2 seconds back is Ian Giebler. And then we got a pretty big gap to the back half of the top 10. Justin Hall and Tim Wire are sort of neck and neck, about 5/10 apart as they cross the line this time by in 8th and 9th. And Sean Saputra in that Love Racing car, the last man standing from the Love Racing crew in the top 10. Oh, and then as I go to say Peter Lazone's name, he spins it going through turn 1. Jeez. Commentator's curse strikes again. Luckily for him, he gets it slowed down before he taps the outside wall, but just that classic mistake, putting 2 tires onto the outside as he goes around.
It's a great 1 car width of grass there, isn't there? If you go very, very wide, you jump straight across the grass onto the paved runoff, no problems. If you keep it within bounds of the track, no problems. It's only if you're a quarter to half a car wide in that corner does it bite you like that.
Yeah, got to be precise, got to get it right.
That's why if you're going to make mistakes, make big mistakes, Devin. That's how I live my life. Never making small mistakes, only big ones.
That's what you want to do at the racetrack. That's what they always says. Good stuff. Back up at the front, though, it looks like McCormick's now going to have to handle another big chunk of traffic. He's got Vandervert, Rose, and Smith up ahead of him. Oh, no. Owen Watts Owen Watts has just had a bad one too. That looks like he got together with was that? Oh no, Jerry Bavinek strikes again coming through that final turn complex. He gets onto the grass and just barely tags Owen, and that's a real shame. Owen was having a real good run. Hopefully, yeah, it looks like Owen was able to hold on to his fast repair. Pro tip for drivers in the series: make sure you uncheck the fast repair if the car's driving straight, and you'll be able to use it in critical final moments. So Owen's rejoined, and he's running, by the looks of things, 7th place, now much closer to Justin Hall and Tim Wire than he probably wants to be.
It's going to be a tough end to this race for Justin Hall as he tries to go to the end from his lap 1 pit stop. Those tyres are the oldest in the field. Tim Wires are a whole lot fresher, having pitted lap 8.
And I just saw Tim Wire on the back straight. Looked like a money shift. Just, I don't know, straight 4 to 3 it must have been as he was going into the chicane. But anyway, he blew the motor and parked it on the back straight. Now he's in the pit lane.
Suddenly a lot of traffic for the race leader. They're side by side in front of him as he tries to work his way through. The lead gap's 1.5 seconds, but it is a lot of lapped cars.
Man, it's 10 minutes to go, and it might as well be 3 a.m. Kyle Robertson's just got it spun it out of turn number 5 just for absolutely no reason. I think we're starting to see the limits of focus for some of these drivers. It's all over the track.
Oh, 3 wide for Pilota as he tries to lap some cars. Soto managed to muscle his way through. The lead gap 1.2 seconds, still a lap car in the middle of them. But
critical
overall,
because that's going to be a draft for them. There's
sending it into the museum corner. Joshua Soto almost runs up the back of that lapped car.
That's James Smith. James Smith had that early incident after doing some good things on the opening laps. We'll see if he gets out of the way here. He's not giving it all up. Definitely giving the inside line though, and Smith will actually act as a bit of a pick there, giving Soto some room on Pilota.
So just striking 10 minutes to go, and there is 2 seconds for your whole top 3 here, and they are closing up. Suddenly a little bit more space between Soto and Pilota because of the traffic, but it could close in an instant. This is one of the Kruger-tuned cars. It is Mark Kruger. Goes wide in 2 and 3 and lets McCormick through. He'll be very wise to all that's going on in this lead battle, I reckon.
Yeah, he's paying attention, and you love to see that. Spatial awareness, situational awareness, really key to success both on the iRacing series and in the real world. These guys are trying hard, though. Soto nailed that corner. I think he's down under a second this time.
He is, and McCormick got out wide, almost looked a little slippery on the marbles. Soto is not going to hold back here. He can see that win. He can smell the opportunity. And so again, throws it into the museum turn with just so much speed. He's gaining under the brakes just with bravery, it seems. And now he'll be in that slipstream. It's 7/10, and he's closing in on a battle for the lead here. 7 laps to go if the numbers count correctly.
It's getting tight up at the front. And Josh Soto, how many times has he been in this kind of position? You know, we've seen him out over the years with great pace, especially in these Miatas, and he's had such a hard time tying it all together. I think there's been at least 5 times he's been in this kind of position, and he's only brought it together once. I think he's got one other win in the past. He'll be wanting this one.
Six laps to go. Top 3 continue to compress. Soto with the shortest stop of all of them. So I don't think Pilotta is going to have any worries about how much fuel he's got. First and second, we've burnt a lot more since the pit stop than they did before it, where it was all pack racing, 6 guys under a blanket. Here they've had to push on in a little bit of clear air, probably used more per lap. So if they don't have much in reserve, it might get a little close towards the end.
Ooh, action in 5th and 6th place. Tim Wyer's just gone and gotten a good run up the inside Alex Albert, and they're banging doors down this back straight between up to turn 7 there, tapping each other, folding in the mirrors. This is Alex Albert. He takes the inside into the museum turn, manages to get it stuck back, but he's going to be fighting hard to hold off Ian Giebler. It seemed like Ian Giebler had a little bit more pace than Alex last time, by nearly a second faster at the line, and you got to wonder if that early stop from Albert starting to affect him here. We'll see as they come through this grip limited section of the track. Alex does a good job of getting the car out on its nose and sliding through there. Two of them having a heck of a battle though here. We'll keep you posted on how that's going as we stay with the front till the end here. Josh Soto and Mark McCormick just about as close together, and Andrew Pilotta's right there now.
Yeah, he's brought himself back into this now, just 9/10 for our whole top 3 here. Under 5 laps to go as that clock continues to tick down. 6.5 minutes to go, and they just keep all converging on each other in a 3-way fight for this win. Would be the first win this year for these 3 drivers, whoever gets it.
Yeah, all 3 of them hungry for it too. You know, with the variety of cars that we run in this series, when you get a combo that suits you, you're going to have to maximize it for sure this season. A little bit shorter sprint season so that we have room for those endurance races on the schedule. And the points, I think, are going to be even tighter. And Bill Salen's going to have a really good look at this battle here as they're about to come up and lap them, timing it just right near the end here so you can get maximum brand coverage and a good front row seat. McCormick racing
from McCormick. It's 2 schools of thought here for McCormick as Mr. Salen gets well out of the way of our leading trio and puts himself in position to have a great view towards the end. But there were sort of 2 schools of thoughts there for McCormick: either absolutely bomb it or back Soto up a little bit to give you the breathing room to then get around the lapper. When you're trying to defend a time lead, you can't wait behind the lapped cars. But here, throw the stopwatch out the window. You can see with your eyes. You just got to keep your nose in front. If you can defend, hold second up a little bit, then get a run out of that corner onto the lapped car, that's just as good as, in fact, better than you getting bottled up behind the lapped car and your destiny's out of your hands then.
Really silly factor, but that Whammo car is shiny as heck. And so if any of those guys behind him are running an HDR monitor, they might get blinded at an inopportune moment with the way that thing's sparkling in the sun right now, even with all the bumping and banging that's been going on.
Well, they can be witness to him. He is all shiny and chrome. Can he bring this one to victory lane?
I was wondering, Alex Albert's still holding off Ian Giebler, but the 2 of them battling with each other is costing them some time. Owen Watts is getting a little bit closer, but he's going to need the 2 of them to tangle if he's going to get back into that battle for the top 5.
Yeah, battle check. So we've got our top 3 battle, but then there's also Albert and Giebler, there's also Hall and Wire, there's also Mullerman and Trask, there's also Rose and Kruger, Grinnell, Robertson, and Alfano, Jared Cubitt battling with Carlos Corredor, and oh no, that's it.
just that many. Yeah, it's
just
wild.
Boring ChampCar iRacing series things, you know. If you're not our winners, I mean, you're still having a great time. You're still getting one race closer to being in that draw for our prizes, and getting to know sometimes more intimately than you want your fellow ChampCar competitors.
Hey, there's no better shared experience than driving each other off the track into a wall. And it's cheaper in the sim, you know? Soto's taking a little look up the inside here on McCormick, and he's been really good on the brakes. Oh, McCormick tried to close the door, but Soto was already there. And Soto's taking that inside line, taking the shorter line. And it doesn't look like McCormick has much in the way of a run, maybe a little bit. He's going to be able to hold the inside coming into the next turn here. Whoa, Soto has to give it up, and Pilata gets blocked. Good stuff from Soto there. Really experienced racing.
It's just not going to end well for him out there, and says, okay, if you're level with me and you're on the inside, you take this corner, but he'll have to fight back for that lead once again, and it'll be 2 laps to go when they get to the line. They're bearing down on a little bit more traffic, but Soto knows he backs himself to break deep into these corners. He shows the nose, tries to get McCormick offline, tries to cut back underneath.
He does.
And he will, side by side in the final section of corners here. Pilata wants some of it as well. He wants to follow Soto through if he can. McCormick can hold around the outside here. He can get the inside of the final corner, but Soto won't let him do that. Gets one car width clear, but then just leaves in the inside. They're going to bang doors, trade a little bit of paint in the final corner, but Soto goes through into the lead of the race. Pilata follows through into second. They got 2 minutes and 2 laps left, and the top 3 have flipped once again.
Oh, and those were gentle little contacts, just 0 X's. We can see that on our end of things. Man, oh man, they touched the doors, and both of them broke the rear tires loose, leaving blackies out of the final turn. That's good stuff. McCormick, he'll be hungry. That Whammo car has got the paint job for a reason. He makes a big look up the inside of Pilata. Scares him off the apex. A little more contact there.
It's one thing to show your nose down the inside and try to outbrake, but you need to drive off that turn 5 better, because otherwise you're exactly where Soto found himself earlier. You're on the outside, door to door, coming into this museum turn, and it takes a lot of guts to try to go around the outside. But if you're a defending champion, you've got to have a lot of guts, but it's not enough around the outside there. The speed just isn't there, and what this does is it just keeps McCormick further away from Joshua Soto. They're battling and squabbling over second and third, side by side through a part of the track you normally can't do it. And Soto has a whole 1 second lead now.
Yeah, we're coming.
Oh, they touch! Pilata and McCormick sends Pilata into a half spin. He's around. McCormick threw in a second, and Pilata losing out, ought to be able to get turned around and still hold on to 3rd place. No damage on the car, but a tiny tap at a critical point.
Oh, that's really tough. That's going to be a tough one to settle between the 2 of them, I got to imagine. Really close racing.
White flag is out for Joshua Soto as he leads them into the final lap from Barber Motorsports Park, taking that white flag with just 9 or 10 seconds left on the clock. So it's just gone 1 extra lap, and I wonder if they calculated for that on the fuel. But with a 3-second lead, Joshua Soto can be cautious with the traffic and try to walk this one home after having to sprint and give it everything he had after the pit stop to claw the lead gap down, to get to Mark McCormick and to fight for this race win.
Looks like he's got a little bit of traffic between him and McCormick as well. Pilata is going to be sad about that one, but we'll get him in the broadcast booth afterwards for an interview and see what he's got to say about it. Meanwhile, the battle between Albert and Giebler is still raging for 5th and 6th place. We'll keep an eye on that as we go. Giebler, or that's Wire. No, Giebler up the inside of Alex Albert. Albert gives him some room to race, holds the outside though, becoming the inside critically for that next turn.
You need that inside into the museum turn. Giebler knows it and is squeezing Alex a little bit, but eventually just has to yield on that one, and Albert parks it in front.
Yeah. Alex does the classic move, parks it really, really well. Oh, evasive action though. He has to get around this lap traffic. Ben Rose having to go up the inside here. And now Giebler will get it through, and Rose is off the track. And he's going to give up a spot to Mark Kruger by the looks of things. Those 2 are racing for position.
Taking the checkered flag, Joshua Soto is thrilled with it. Don't celebrate too early. Checkered flag is there. And Joshua Soto takes his first win of the ChampCar iRacing Series in 2023. What a fight all the way to those last couple of laps.
Ooh, tight stuff. Alex Albert manages to hold Ian Giebler off as he watches ahead of him, Pilata crossing the line and Lufa crossing the line. Justin Hall, good and clear of Tim Wire, as those two had a little bit of a battle going. What else am I seeing? That looks like Peter Lauzon having a little battle with Davis Trask here near the end. Two of them.
On a tight line into the final corner, might get drag race to the checkered flag. Trask pulls out. Hall's running out of fuel. Almost a 3-wide finish over that spot. And I need to check the timing. Trask got it that's about a hundredth of a second.
Yeah, if that.
Yeah, you're measuring that down to the thousands to try to work out who did that. And both of them were pulling. Or Justin Hall, who ran out of fuel coming out of the final corner.
Scott Grinnell and Tony Alfano are going to have their own photo finish by the looks of things here. Alfano in that orange or that purple and yellow car pulls out not quite enough at the last second. And I think that's the last of our finishers on the lead lap.
That's what we say in ChampCar iRacing series. No one has a boring race. These guys who, don't have the luck or the skill or the experience to battle for that win will land around someone similar to what they can do and, battle them all the way to the end. And we mean all the way to the end, like we've just seen in those battles. Fantastic racing in the 2010 Mazda MX-5 Miata at Barber Motorsport Park. Joshua Soto takes the win, and he had to fight for it. Mark McCormick looked to have him foxed on strategy, just got outraced at the end, and Pilota completes the podium. Behind that, Lutfer, Albert, Giebler, Owen Watts, Tim Wire, Sean Saputra, and Justin Hall coughing, spluttering to a top 10, but he gets there ahead of Davis Trask and Peter Lauzon. Then Lee Mullerman, Austin Dodge, Scott Grinnell, Tony Alfano, Aaron Thorpe, Kyle Robertson, Ben Rose, and Mark Kruger, our top 20. Across the page, then we find Randall Kinney, Charles Kowalczyk, Darren McNeil Jr., Carlos Carrero, Jared Cubitt, Todd Chapman, Danny Robinson, Alan Wells, Nick Love, James Smith, Bill Sarlin, Jerry Barvanek, Ernesto Carrizosa, Greg Vandervert, Dustin Besh, John Hurley. I think we're starting to get into retirements here. And then Thomas Reyes, Sonny Bajaj, Michael Thorne, David Palermo, Skip Rock Jr., Carlos Reyes, Heath Threm, the last driver who took the start of the race. Great one from Barber. Close all the way through the field, and we have the delight of being able to speak to some of our drivers now, hopefully, Devin.
Yeah, still looking around. Haven't found the whole podium yet, but by the looks of things, we got Mark McCormick hanging out nearby. So we'll pull Mark in here. And Mark, hell of a race up there. You were leading through most of the back half of the session, and then a little bit of contact there at the end.
Yeah, I got the pitted early and pulled a decent gap, and it was coming down, sure enough. But I think I could have held it around 2.5 seconds or so if I just caught traffic poorly and these guys didn't want to, let me pass easy. So I kind of just lost the gap to the draft, and then once they're within 1.5 seconds, it's easy peasy. For the contact at the end, man, I think Andrew's mad at me, but I hope he knows I didn't do that on purpose. You can see on the replay when you watch it in slow-mo that I slammed on my brakes as soon as I saw him turn in. I couldn't tell when he was going to turn in, but we had clean racing up to that point, and that was a lot of fun. So I'm kind of sorry about the way it ended. That sucks, but it was a lot of fun until then.
It looked like a very good race otherwise. It was a heck of a battle up there. Noticing the change in competition here at the ChampCar iRacing Series?
Yeah, man, it's good stuff. These guys are fast. I couldn't get it all together in qualifying. I think I could have snagged pole, but of course I would say that, right? So I'm not sure what the other guys' optimals were, but still, even with the start, I'm not sure what happened to Josh. Like he, I don't know. I just slotted back to fourth, and I was worried about my damage on the rear, but it turned out okay.
Yeah. Well, great job out there today. Congratulations on the second place. Anyone you need to thank for the race tonight?
Thank you guys for putting this on, man, and I'll catch you next round.
See you there.
Thanks for that, Devon. I think I'm able now to grab our race winner, and Josh Soto joins us. First off, congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
That race from your perspective then, I mean, McCormick pits early, gets on those new tires early, has a bit of a gap after the pit stop. Demoralizing, or did you know what was up and you were still in with a chance?
At first I was kind of confused. I was like, wait a minute. There's like a 4-second gap after the pits. That and I kind of made a mistake in the pits. I was thinking that the where I had to slow down was a lot further up, so I was going slow through the pits, and then about halfway, I just thought he probably didn't take tires or something, or just had like a really good pit. But I noticed that we were kind of catching up to him, so it really just boiled down to he probably didn't take any tires or something of that matter.
Well, you seem to be something of a specialist in anything with a Mazda badge on it. The ND Miata returns later in this season. Is that something you think you're going to go well in as well? Oh
yeah, for sure. I didn't even know that. But yeah, if it makes a return, that would be great, because I like using the manual shifters, and I prefer them over the the sequential. So it would be great for practice if they do bring those back.
Got a taste of everything in the ChampCar iRacing series this year, and you've got a taste for victory there with your first of the season, your first in a while in this championship. Oh
yeah, it's it's last race I was really trying to get the win, but it didn't go as planned. But yeah, it feels good to get the win here at Barber Motorsports Park.
Well, congratulations to you once again. Thanks for racing with us, and my goodness, did you race for an hour today?
Oh yeah. It was pretty tiring, especially near the end. But yeah, overall it was a pretty fun race.
Thanks, Josh. Catch you around.
Okay, thank you.
Very humble winner. Is it fair to say, Devon?
Yeah, speak quietly and race real fast. That's what they say, right?
That's what you say, and I if it works, it's kind of the Finnish way, if we think about it like that. But let's gain the podium. Josh Soto, Mark McCormick, Andrew Pilato. It'll be very interesting to take a look at what the championship points are after this, because 12 rounds to this sort of 1 hour format this year. And then also we've got some of our endurance rounds coming up. Next regular round is March 1st, so in just 2 weeks at Sonoma Raceway in the TCRs. So that will be quite interesting, a little different. We'll see who's great in the front wheel drive stuff, and you'll catch it here on HJBC. You can race with us. Go to forum.champcar.org, and it's all there. How to join the league, how to join us on Discord. any help you might need getting sim stuff set up as well. Plenty of people willing to suggest PC parts, suggest wheels, suggest pedals, whatever it is that you need to get on the sim and get racing against some great iRacing drivers and some great ChampCar drivers. Great to have them, intermingled here on the ChampCar iRacing series that makes sim races of ChampCar members and ChampCar members of sim races.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the next round at Sonoma Raceway. Going to see that TCR category out for the first time, with drivers having the option to select from all of the TCR cars that are available on the service. So we'll see what ends up showing up on the schedule. And then a little bit further down the road, March 22nd, we've got that race at Daytona in the Mustangs. And the Mustangs are always a good time.
We look forward to all of it and an update on those points. With a third place today, Andrew Pallotta leads the championship by 2 points. Great results there. Consistency paying off. What will pay off in 2 weeks' time from Sonoma? You'll have to join us to find out. Thanks for joining us from Barber Motorsports Park, though. Round 2 of the ChampCar iRacing Series, won by Josh Soto. Been David Haynes, Devin Peters with me, Michael Derby producing. See you in 2 weeks.